President Trump's own national security advisor thinks there's incontrovertible evidence of Russian efforts to undermine American democracy. H.R. McMaster's blunt assessment Saturday, following an indictment charging more than a dozen Russians with illegal activity in the 2016 election, counters Trump's claims that allegations of foreign efforts to sway the public in his favor were false. As you can see with the FBI indictment, the evidence is now really incontrovertible and available in the public domain, McMaster told a Russian delegate at the Munich Security Conference in Germany. Russian officials, meanwhile, dismissed the indictment as just blabber. The country's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, brushed off charges from special counsel Robert Mueller that a troll farm with ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin attempted to unlawfully influence the election. Until we see the facts, everything else is just blabber. I'm sorry for this expression, Lavrov said. The Justice Department unsealed the indictment from Mueller against 13 Russians and a trio of companies Friday, accusing them of a sophisticated effort to spread disinformation via fake social media accounts and other online platforms. The social media scammers were charged with conspiracy, fraud, identity theft and other crimes. The indictment laid bare the extent of the interference allegedly perpetrated by Russia in its efforts to meddle in America's democratic process, sow discord and get Trump elected. The 37-page court document outlines an online campaign of chaos beginning in 2014 that included fake Facebook groups, trolling Twitter bots and the enlisting of unwitting Americans in an effort to boost Trump over Hillary Clinton, his Democratic rival. The group also goaded Americans into taking to the streets after the election, organizing simultaneous pro- and anti-Trump rallies. Despite the evidence, Trump has spent the first 1,212 months of his presidency dismissing Russian efforts to influence the election as fake news and a hoax. He has accused the FBI and the special counsel of conducting a witch hunt. Earlier last week, the country's leading intelligence officials issued a dire warning, telling lawmakers that Russia has every intention of interfering in the upcoming midterm elections. There should be no doubt that Russia perceives its past efforts as successful and views the 2018 U.S. midterm elections as a potential target for Russian influence operations. Dan Coats, the director of national intelligence, said during testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Jonathan Ernst his grave concerns were echoed by his contemporaries at the CIA, FBI and other agencies. McMaster on Saturday said the U.S. is becoming more and more adept at tracing the origins of this espionage and subversion. He also brushed off suggestions that the U.S. work with Russia on issues of cybersecurity. I'm surprised there are any Russian cyber experts available based on how active most of them have been undermining our democracies in the West, he said to Laughter. Despite the dire warnings, the White House appears indifferent to the possibility of a foreign power planning to again meddle in the most elemental of America's civic engagements. Trump has resisted enforcing sanctions against Russia in retaliation and even brazenly called for warmer relations with Moscow despite evidence of a coordinated attack on U.S. institutions. On Saturday, Trump focused on the fact that the meddling began before his campaign and lasted until after the 2016 election. Funny how the fake news media doesn't want to say that the Russian group was formed in 2014, long before my run for president, he tweeted. Maybe they knew I was going to run even though I didn't know. The president appears more concerned with his election win not appearing tainted by outside help than with securing against America's vulnerabilities, experts warned. These indictments remind us that the Mueller investigation has always first and foremost been about Russian interference in the election, said William Banks, a professor at Syracuse University Law School. Just about everyone but the president has characterized their interference as a serious threat to our democracy. Mueller, tasked with investigating Russia's efforts after Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, is also looking at whether anyone in the Trump campaign coordinated with the Kremlin and whether or not the president has attempted to obstruct justice. The wide-ranging probe has already brought serious charges against several Trump associates. Former campaign chairman Paul Manafort and his longtime business partner Rick Gates have pleaded not guilty to charges that include money laundering. Gates is reportedly negotiating a deal with prosecutors. Disgraced ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and former campaign advisor George Papadopoulos both admitted to lying to the FBI and are cooperating with investigators. Mueller has spent weeks interviewing White House staff and is reportedly looking at whether the president attempted to circumvent his investigation by firing Comey, with news wire services.